So as you can see, we've got a back to the river, and this is really where the sort of commercial gateway to this part of Suffolk lies. Well, welcome everyone to another episode of the County Thrillcast, and today you join me in Bess, my 1971 Mark II Vitesse, and slightly different adventure today. My plan is to trace the Blyth River Valley, which will take us along some very pretty country roads to the market town of Halesworth, and from there we'll trace the river all the way back to the estuary at the very popular seaside village of Walberswick. I haven't actually planned this route very carefully, so some of it's going to be a bit hit and miss. I've got a general idea of the direction we're going, and I'm taking some roads which I haven't explored previously, so if we get lost together. But yeah, let's see what we can find. I should just give a shout out. I've started this journey at the Oxford Antique Centre, which, if you're interested in vintage, whether it's clothing, records, furniture, whatever it is, there's an amazing selection of stuff there, and I thoroughly recommend a visit. It's also got a little cafe there, so it's a good spot to sort of stop off if you're out this way in Suffolk for a long drive. As you can see, it's not raining today, but we've had yet again a sort of horrendous period of 48 hours of rain. This is what, the 10th of February, and it has to be the wettest winter that I can remember in Suffolk, and the roads are still flooded in parts. When you look at some of the outside shots of Bess, you'll see she's not very clean, and in fact I've deliberately chosen to take her out on this journey before I wash her. Yeah, we're going to get muddy. So, you might have seen in one of my earlier videos, I visited the Deben estuary at Ramsholt, and we were looking there at the importance of the river for transporting things like lime and coprolite. As we're driving around, you can see, we're in a very rural farming area, which is synonymous for producing wheat and barley. And if you go back to the sort of 1700s, it's true to say that most of these roads, I say this ruefully because it feels sometimes they're not in much better condition now than they were in the 1700s, but a lot of these roads were not usable for more than about 4 or 5 months of the year, and obviously railways hadn't been invented at that point, and so rivers and waterways were an extremely important way of getting agricultural produce like wheat, obviously for bread, barley for brewing, to places like maltings, mills, and of course to the larger markets, cities and towns. And if you look at a map of Suffolk, you'll see the rivers are extremely important. In the west of the county, you have a River Lark, which goes from Bury St Edmunds through into the sort of Cambridgeshire fenland, through places like Mildenhall, West Row, and eventually hooks up with the big rivers and ports like King's Lynn. In this side of the county, we have the River Waveney, which effectively forms a water boundary between Suffolk and Norfolk, and that again allows for access to the port of Lowestoft, so it allows you to bring fishing or fish in from the port inland, again to get barley and wheat out, and from there obviously the coastal trade can then send the goods by sailing barge round the coast to London and other places. But it's very difficult to imagine when you look at the landscape now how vital these waterways are, because so many of them have become silted up, they're no longer navigable. But 300 years ago, these were important arteries of traffic for commerce, and it's not a coincidence that I've chosen today to do this, because I have a feeling we'll be able to see a little bit more of the River Blyth, which is the one we're choosing to look at, because it's in flood. So we're heading off now to Heveningham, where we'll pick up the river and follow it downstream to Halesworth. So we're now coming into the village of Heveningham, and this is a very pretty little village. Again, I've done part of this route in an earlier video back in the summer, but I don't think the landscape was quite as visible then, because obviously the trees and the hedges were all in leaf. So worth having another look at. Great driving roads here. They're undulating, nice and twisty. And again, a lot of this is national speed limit. I mean, you'd be pushed to do 60 in the wet on these roads, certainly in an old car like this. But in the dry, it's a different matter. So we're now coming into the village of Walpole, and again we'll cross the bridge. Just here. This is a very pretty village. So the route that we've taken has allowed us to avoid the A12, and again we're making our way to the coast, not following the A12 but literally following the course of the River Blyth. Very nice 7 Series BMW. They're becoming a rare sight. So again, Halesworth is a medieval town. At its heart, as we push out towards the edges, of course, we start to see Victorian architecture, like the houses here on our left, and then this eventually gives way to 20th century housing. These white brick townhouses here on the left are particularly attractive. See evidence of Edwardian buildings, and then properties from the 1930s. So it follows the sort of ribbon development that occurred after the First World War. So the river is of course off to our right here. And you can see you've got the sort of lower wetlands and floodplain. And of course most of that is just laid to pasture because it's not suitable for growing crops commercially. And again to my right, you probably can't see it unfortunately because of the way I've set the camera up, but the river is in flood, and again I'd have to say I don't think I've ever seen it quite like this before. So I've just changed the camera angle slightly so that you can get a better glimpse of the estuary at Blythburgh as we approach it. And this is the part where the river becomes tidal. it creates this amazing tidal basin here, and if we were to turn left, we'd be heading towards Southwold, but what we're doing is actually just going right towards Walberswick. So we'll pick up the river on the south bank. They've had to raise the sea wall either side of this stretch of the A12 because it's been notorious for flooding, particularly with the high spring tides that we've had over the last few years. Oops. I need to watch my speed. So this is the village of Blyth. And again, the road we're on is a really great driving road that will take you to villages like Dunwich, Westleton, and link you all the way back to Leiston. Left here to Walberswick. And hopefully you get a bit of a view now of the River Valley estuary. This is a very popular destination for holiday makers during the summer, and it is no doubt it's a beautiful place to come, you know, on a dry, hot day. But like a lot of other places in East Suffolk, I sort of think that it's almost at its best at winter. There are fewer visitors, and with the trees not in leaf you get better views of the landscape, and it has this sort of haunting quality that we saw a couple of videos ago in that journey down to Ramsholt. This is a real haven for second homes, and probably one of the most expensive parts of Suffolk to buy a house. It's very much a London-centric market. And a haven for writers, artists and musicians, and one or two actors. So we have the sea right ahead of us, and you just see the black beach huts in the distance, but We're not headed for the beach, we're going for the river. And just come past the village green. Here we are. Again, we're talking about the rivers being in flood, and you can sort of see that here. This is pretty high. On the far bank we've got Southwold, and there's a little ferry that takes you from one bank to the other, so you can sort of park in Walberswick and be rowed across and explore Southwold, or vice versa. It's a very busy little harbour as well. Doesn't look it today, but again, during the holiday season, it's absolutely bustling. Yeah, I think when you come to this part of the coast in the winter, you get an entirely different impression of Suffolk. These big brooding skies that we see, and the sort of tranquility of a landscape. We've got quite a few people out walking, but there's no sort of hustle or bustle to it. And as you've seen, we've got some great driving roads here, so definitely worth coming out and exploring. But I hope you've enjoyed this journey with me. I'm going to go off and get myself a well-earned cup of coffee, and I look forward to seeing you again in my next video. So take care.